Well, to some extent, yes, there will be some teams that have started to work back at the office, and depending on the ability to perform their functions from home, they will certainly be expected to do so from today. For many other organizations, majority of their workforce has continued to work from home or done a combination of home working and office working. So the disruption would not be as great in those situations. It's useful to remember that a high proportion of workers in the Bay are in hospitality and in other face-to-face occupations where a work from home order would not be feasible for them. So we have to understand that different sectors will be affected in different ways.
Do you think people will heed the messages this time around?
Generally speaking, the people in Torbay have been very good at following advice, and we have tried as much as possible to help explain why certain measures are necessary. And I think people will understand the need to take precautions at a time when we're dealing with a new variant and we're not entirely sure the impacts that it will have. So it's important that we do what we can to slow down the transmission. That puts us in a better situation if this turns out to be a variant that causes severe disease and pressures in terms of the NHS. Then anything that we do now blunts that full impact. So I'm optimistic that our people will continue to follow sensible advice as they've always done.
You use the term sensible there. Do you think people understand the rules? Do you think it's clear this time around?
Yes. Plan B has been trailed for some time, and some of the restrictions or additional measures are fairly straightforward. So mask wearing is something that a lot of us have continued to do, certainly when we were in shops and in other crowded places. And in England, the restrictions now are that's required by law, except in hospitality settings and one or two others. The work from home, where possible, is again straightforward. People will no doubt be having those discussions in their workplaces, and their managers will be, informing which teams can or can't reasonably work from home. So I think that generally speaking, the restrictions are fewer and more straightforward than they have been. Inevitably, they're going to be potential conflicts that people will point to, but I think it's about looking at the spirit of what we're trying to do, looking at the fact that we want to reduce transmission as much as possible, rather than paying too much attention to potential inconsistency between rules.
Have you been contacted by many people asking for advice? Obviously, for the first time, there'll be what people are calling a COVID passport, won't there, later this week? Are people worried? Are people on top of this, or are there a lot of concerns that you found?
So in general, we've not had a lot of requests around most of the measures. We've been working most closely with schools, and that's been ongoing because clearly the implications for them, schools and educational settings have been where we've had the majority of cases in recent weeks. So clearly they have been the ones that have been asking for support in interpreting guidance, etc. The other key area is around events, and we have certainly been working with various sectors and event organizers in terms of making their events COVID safe. And on our website, we do have guidance and recommendations about how people do that. But in general, we've not had a lot of queries about the new guidance that are coming in.
Do you have any examples of events that have had to change in the Bay in the coming weeks as a result of checking with you or events that you know of?
Well, it would probably be more events in the past. Some organizers have looked at the high rates that we've been experiencing throughout November and modified their plans in the lead up to Christmas. What I would say, we've had more discussions, for example, around the events, Guy Fawkes Night, for example, and fireworks displays, etc. And it varies. Some organizers have felt that they couldn't make their events COVID safe and opted not to have them. In some situations, they were able to bring in additional measures that we felt were sensible and proportionate. So thus far, we've not had any reports of spread associated with events that we've had in the Bay. And I think that's testimony to the close working that we've had with event organizers who have, by and large, been very sensible in terms of trying to do things in ways that will keep people safe.